Welcome to another episode of the Art in Session podcast, where we dive into the world of creative professionals, offering inspiration, insights, and practical tools for artists at every stage of their journey. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our conversations are here to support your growth, connect you with the community, and help you make a real impact with your art. Let's get into it.
So excited. So I'd like to introduce you all to Daliah Raz. She is a Boston-based Jewish artist. She does really fun, whimsical art. She's an author of a book called Shit Art is Better Than No Art. She's also an art school dropout who's been blowing up on social media and is now working on opening her own store. So welcome, Dahlia.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's exciting. I've talked to you before, but Ania, it's my first time meeting you. So it's awesome to talk to both of you and just talk to everyone who's here. I'm really excited to talk to everyone.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say thank you for making the time to be here and
Absolutely.
for wanting to share with other artists.
An artist. It really is a journey to become an artist, and I'm here because so many people have been kind and helped me along the way, and I'm happy to help anyone I can.
Exactly. It takes a village to become an artist.
It really does.
So I would love to hear about, your early days when you dropped out of art school and you decided to continue to become an artist. What was that like for you?
That is a really good place to start. I dropped out of art school in 2015. I was 19 years old and was just like, wait, my life is mine. And yet I am doing things that people are telling me to do that I know aren't going to help me get to where I want to go. What is the point of this? Like, for art school, some people really benefit from it. I definitely acknowledge that. And I've met artists who are successful because of it. But for me, I felt like for what I wanted to do, it was killing my creativity. It was killing my joy, most of all. It was killing my joy for art, which is like where art comes from for me. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what is the point of doing this? What is the point of killing the source of why I create? How does that benefit me? How does that benefit the world? And I was 19. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm just not showing up to classes anymore. Eventually, like, you can't really live in the dorms if you don't show up to classes. So I got kicked out of the dorms, moved back in with my parents. It was a whole thing, but I always loved art. I knew I wanted to do art, and I just felt like going to art school wasn't going to be the way for me, for myself.
Yes. And that takes amazing awareness to realize that what I'm doing is not what I need to be doing. So That's why I asked, because I'm curious how that inspiration and that drive to, pave your own path, maintain, because a lot of people need that permission slip from the authorities to be like, you're now legitimate.
I just got to a point where I was like, the only person who's in charge of my life is me. And whether I live my life joyfully or miserably, that falls on me as an adult. There is no longer, school is not mandatory as an adult. You don't have to go to school. I met so many people at art school who were like, my parents are making me. I'm like, are they here holding your hand and walking you to class? Like, what do you mean they're making you? Like, right. Sometimes I get a bit riled up about it, and I apologize if that's a bit much for some people, but it frustrated me that so many adults acted like their life was not theirs. It is yours. It is yours to do what you want with, no matter what people tell you, no matter what I even tell you. It doesn't matter. It is only up to you. And that's the realization I had when I was 19. I was like, I am done pretending that this isn't my life and my responsibility. And that's what drove me to drop out of art school, because that was what was right for me. For others, going to art school is going to be the brave thing that they do. That's going against the system, going against what they're told. So it's an individual thing, but it just comes down to, is your life yours? Are you an adult, and is your life your own? What do you do with that information?
That's really, really powerful and inspiring. I think that's why your art and your message resonates with so many people, because you come through so strongly of like, do what brings you joy, right? That's what you're trying to share with this world.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it's so inspiring. I'm just so happy that you're here.
I'm so happy to share this. Seriously, this is such a gift to get to the point. I've been to so many seminars, webinars, things like that to get to this point, and to be the one getting to share the information is incredible, and something I wish for every one of you watching, that you're the one in my seat getting to share your experiences, and you will get there.
Yes, preach. That's why we're doing this, because we feel really strongly about this. Like the opportunities, there's so many more opportunities than there's ever been before. And I think a lot of people are not utilizing what's in front of them to make it happen.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So I was curious, what advice would you give to yourself if you were just starting out as an artist? Like you're brand new baby Dahlia and you were like, maybe I should go to art school, maybe I should do social media. Like, what would you say to this person?
The number one piece of advice I have is do not listen to the adults in your life. They don't know what they're talking about. They think they do because they've lived longer than you. So they're like, oh, I've lived so long, I know what I'm talking about. They were not born the year you were born. Your parents, your aunts, your uncles, grandparents, teachers even, they don't know everything. And in fact, a lot of them do not know the world we live in today. If I could give one piece of advice to my younger self, and a piece of advice I give to a lot of artists starting out, is don't take advice from people that you wouldn't trade lives with in some capacity. If your parents are telling you you should go to school, get a steady job, and you see your parents and they're miserable, why are you taking their advice? Just because they made you? That's not reason enough to take someone's advice. That's not enough. And that's really what it comes down to for me.
Exactly. Dude, I relate to you so much. It's exactly how I feel. It's amazing.
Thank you. I'm so excited that I get to share all of this, honestly.
It's really good advice, and it's not being said enough.
Yeah, like the adults don't know everything. I don't know everything. No one knows everything. And so many adults, especially ones that are older, I find adults that are like 30, 40, 50, like any age, any certain age group, they think they know everything because they've lived longer. And
Yeah.
that's just not reason enough. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. No one knows everything.
Right. If age is your only authority, we've got another problem.
It's not good enough. It's just not a good enough authority.
Yeah. So this week's session is all about creating content, and I'd love to hear more about your process. Like, do you batch your content? Do you plan it ahead? Do you film and post as you go? Like, what does your content creation strategy look like?
That's a great question. I mean, when I started out versus where I am today, I have a very different approach to creating content, because I do believe that when you're starting out, it is about grabbing a lot of attention. It is about quantity over quality, in my opinion, when you're starting out, at least in my experience and how I grew my audience. And now that I have an audience, I find that it's really more important that I actually post less videos, but that are higher quality. That actually gets me more attention these days. But when I was starting out, I also started out in a different environment. Social media has changed. I started out on TikTok in February of 2019. I have been on TikTok for a long, long time. Like I was on TikTok when I had to explain to people what it was, when they would ask me where I post my art. I'd be like, oh, it's this video app. People didn't know what it was when I started posting there. Instagram as well. I started posting on Instagram in 2014. Mm-hmm. I have been on these platforms for a very long time. So my strategy would also be different if I was starting out today, probably. But for back then, I think the most important thing when starting out is to grab attention. My first viral video was not of art, funny enough. It was me dyeing my armpit hair turquoise. It was an insane video. It was unhinged in the best of ways. I was literally just like, it was Lady Gaga's Born This Way, and I was just dyeing my armpit hair and like singing along, and it was really funny and cute and controversial because body hair and whatever. And it got 2.4 million views. I couldn't believe it. That's the most any video I had ever received in my life, not just on TikTok, in my life. I couldn't believe millions of people had looked at me and at my armpits. It was really weird, but cool. And it got so much attention. And that's how I got my first 10,000 followers on TikTok. It was the armpit video. It wasn't an art video, but it was a video that really came down to the why of why I create and why I share. I wanted to share something positive. I wanted to share something that would inspire people to be themselves, and just something that promoted creativity, promoted self-love, promoted self-expression, whatever that looks like. So for me, the fact that my first viral video wasn't an art video, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, I think it actually comes down to my core philosophies. Did my first viral video touch on what my philosophies are later on in my art? Yes. It was all about self-expression, not caring what other people think, but still being kind and caring and being a good person and all of those things that I value. And that's where it came from. And so that was my first viral video. I had to grab attention to get those first 10,000 followers, because until you have like a certain amount of followers, sometimes people are like, oh, wait, why doesn't this person have followers? I'm not going to follow them either. You have to give someone a really good reason to follow you. What are you giving them? What's the value? And that, I would say, if you have a social media strategy, it's to ask yourself every day, why do you make content? Why are you sharing? Why are you on social media? And it can't just be about yourself. It cannot, because I used to do that. I used to be like, oh, I'm on social media because I want my art to be known. No one really cared about my art when that was my why. When I decided my why is because I want to make people excited to be alive. I want to make people inspired. I want people to be creating too. That's when everything blew up for me. That was like early 2020. I just decided that's my why. I'm doing it for younger Dahlia who's watching, because I'm doing it for that 19-year-old who isn't sure, but knows they love art, knows they want to create, and they need someone telling them, you can do it. You can do it and it's worth it. Keep going. And that's when my content blew up, was when I decided I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for you, whoever you are.
That's amazing. I'm like moved to tears. It's so beautiful. I'm like, yes, get it, girl. That's amazing. So do you feel like were you always this outspoken and outgoing, or was there any kind of a hurdle to get over in terms of like showing up in front of the camera? Like, not a lot of people are comfortable showing their armpits at all. So, just like
Fair enough.
Globally, publicly, like, yeah, what was that like?
I was always a pretty outgoing kid. I was shy in some ways because I was a weird kid, so I was made fun of a lot for it. Like, you go to a suburban school in Massachusetts, people don't tend to embrace the weirdness here that much in the schools I was in, I was made fun of for a lot, but I was still always had this like intensity and drive in me of, I'm gonna get there in the end. And that's what got me through the tough times, was being like, I'm doing this for her, like the person I am now. I was like, she's there, she is waiting, and I'm going to keep being my intense, awesome self for her. And as a kid, I remember there was one time that these girls in second grade were like, I don't know if it's realistic they had some like job aspiration, and they were literally in second grade. And I just gave them this pep talk. I was like, no, you can do it. Like, I was just like going at it, like 8-year-old Dahlia. I was just telling them, yeah, you can succeed, this and that. And this girl, Abby, I remember her still, because she's like, Dahlia, I think when you grow up, you're going to be a motivational speaker or something. And, here we are. So I think, and I always loved theater. I always loved to perform. I think that's something that I always just loved to be like, and on all honesty, loved being the center of attention. In the school plays, I always wanted to be the lead character. Like, I was always someone who loved standing up. Like, I studied opera for a while because I was like, oh, that's so dramatic. I love it. So I love being out there. I love putting myself out there. Nonetheless, I will say, it's not the easiest thing in the world. It can be very uncomfortable to put yourself out there, even when in your soul you want to. Mm-hmm. I want to put myself out there, but I don't do it every day because I don't always have the capacity to do that. It can be really tough to put yourself out there every day. I'm sure you and Ania and anyone else who is on social media regularly knows it can be tough, because the difference between being in a play and being on social media is you're getting immediate feedback on social media. And it's not always positive, and it doesn't always feel good. And you have to keep creating nonetheless. What do you do with that? How do you create that mental separation so it does feel a bit like there's a distance between you and the audience, while still making them feel like they're close to you? Mm-hmm. And that is the challenge of social media that never existed for me when I did theater.
Yeah, that is kind of challenging. Do you have a policy, or what is your internal dialogue when dealing with, negative comments and negative feedback in general?
100%. I actually, like, a while ago, about 1.5 years ago, I made a full YouTube video just going into details, like 10 ways I deal with haters, because so many people were coming to me and being like, how do you deal with this? Like, you're getting hate comments every day, no matter what you do. I could be painting on my car, painting a dress, and someone's going to be mad because it's the internet. people on the internet love being mad. They just love that. They're waiting for an opportunity and you're there. It's not personal. And that's one of the best pieces of advice I would give for dealing with hate is it's not personal. The person hating on you on the other side of the screen, somewhere, who knows where, they don't actually know you. They've seen maybe a minute of your life and they're making a judgment. And that reflects way, way more on them than on you. How you treat others is a reflection on you. How other people treat you is a reflection on them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on you. And I think making that separation of, sure, someone's like judging my video and saying something negative, they don't actually know me. They're not one of the people who are close to me in life. So I've basically in my head said, there are maybe 5 people in my life whose opinions I genuinely value. And aside from that, I'll appreciate other people's opinions, but I do not value them in any way. I do not let them have input on how I feel about myself. That's the biggest thing. Like, there are very few people whose opinions will actually affect what I think of myself. And my fiance is one of them. If he has an opinion, I value his opinion as much as my own. You know, like, we're building our life together. He is the only person aside from myself who I value his opinion as much as my own. And everyone else is like a tier below that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one else on the level of me and him. That's it. And even that, it's like, still, my opinion is still the highest one of myself. And that's what determines my self-esteem and my self-worth is my own opinion. So if someone comes to me and says, Dahlia, you're a terrible person because you painted on a dress. Like, it's funny that that's the picture that's there because people got mad about that. They were like, you're painting on a dress. I'm like, okay, I know myself better than anyone who comments knows me. And I value my own opinion. And I know that I'm a kind person. I know that every day I strive to be my kindest, goodest, best self and to bring good to the world. And if someone is thinking that I'm a bad person, that's because they don't know me. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with them judging a person who they think they know, but who they don't actually know. They don't know me, the person in the comment section. And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. So I'll actually always respond with kindness. I'll never be defensive in my comments. Someone might come to me and be like, oh, I hate your art. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you know, there's luckily a lot of other artists on the internet here, a few other artists I like. You might enjoy their pieces that are a bit different from my own. Like, I never assumed the worst intent and I'm just at peace with it. People are going to judge a version of me that doesn't actually exist. And I'm okay with that.
Right. And as you said, it's never personal, but that's really good to have, you know, those very clear personal boundaries of like, I know who I am. I know whose opinion I trust. I know I have a feedback loop and I don't need, you know, strangers' opinions. So
yeah, that's not my validation. That's really the secret of it is like, where is your validation coming from? Is it coming from yourself or the close people around you or strangers on the internet?
Right.
And so many people leave their self-esteem, the thing that guides their whole life, they leave it to strangers. And you would never trust strangers with any other thing in your life. Why are you trusting them with something as precious as your self-confidence and self-esteem? Why are you putting that on them and not on yourself, where you actually have control?
Preach. Ania, do you want to click through some of the images? We didn't really do the slideshow, but Dahlia does a lot of amazing things. She makes jewelry, makes clothes, paints amazing murals. I really love that project you did. She transformed an entire thrift store, like storefront, where she painted the couches, the walls, everything in it. It looks so good. Do you want to share a bit about that project? What was that like for you?
Yeah, the thrift store project.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, I worked with this thrift store for a few months, just building like this window display for them. I learned a lot from it. And I think there's a lot of things I would actually do differently than I did then, but it was a really cool project because I really learned how to make content that grabbed people's attention through that project. And I think that's really what I'll focus on here, since that's, you know, the theme of what you guys are doing today. My audience doubled in size from that project because I took risks in the art. I showed it in a really cool way. And I shared the philosophy behind why I was creating the way I was creating. And that's really the secret of what grew my audience. And it was a series, but not arbitrarily so. That is to say, some people will be like, come back for part 2. And it's a product that's already finished. To me, I find that frustrating as a consumer. Only make videos that you would be happy to watch is sort of my philosophy about my own content creation. So I would be like, oh, come back for part 2. It's like, today I'm painting a couch. Next week I'm painting a chair. You know, those are separate things, but they're part of a series. So make a series, but not in an arbitrary way that's going to frustrate your audience. And then I also in the videos would talk about my philosophies. Like, no one's going to die if you paint a couch. It's not the end of the world. It really isn't. It's okay. And just, I really wanted to give people permission to express themselves, to feel more free, to take the pressure off. So many people just are perfectionists because they think it's going to save the world somehow. It's not. It's going to make your own internal world miserable. How do you let go of that perfectionism when our whole life we've been told that's what's going to save us? How do you let go of that, but still have high standards for yourself? Those are two different things. Perfectionism and high standards are not the same thing.
No, I think high standards is kind of an excuse for perfectionism, but really perfectionism is just anxiety and fear of judgment, and it's not nearly as noble as having high standards.
Yeah, I have high standards for myself. I really want to, like, look at my art. I clearly care about what it looks like. I care about what I create, but neither of these pieces that you're looking at right now were created with a perfectionist mindset. In fact, they were created with an imperfectionist mindset. This idea that it does not need to be perfect to exist, and nonetheless, it's going to exist. It's going to be put into the world, and that's what's important.
Art in Session is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide professional and educational opportunities to creatives. Thanks to support from our listeners, we are able to keep this mission going. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider donating at www.artinsession.org.
Nonetheless, it's going to exist. It's going to be put into the world, and that's what's important.
And it brings joy to people and it inspires people. I really love that you had imperfectionist in your bio for a while. And I was like, wow, I admire that. It's amazing.
Yeah, maybe I need to put that back. I've been playing around with like what's next for me. So I've been switching up my bio sometimes, but figuring it out.
Yeah.
Like all of us, like no one reaches a point where they're like, okay, I'm just done developing. Like we're all figuring it out and we're all adjusting, pivoting. That's just the nature of life.
Exactly. So I have plenty of questions for Dahlia, but I would love for anyone that wants to jump in or has questions, just type them in the chat box or so we can all engage because I want this to be, interactive with everybody. So the floor is open for questions, but I did want to hear about your more recent collaboration. I saw you did a collab with Bomb Pop where you went to New York City and were basically like a spokesperson for them. That was a really unique way to collaborate with the brand. So I would love to hear more about the terms and how that opportunity came about.
Absolutely. That was a really, really cool project. I always sort of dreamed of doing brand collabs. That's not something that's a recent development for me. I remember learning many, many years ago, probably 10 years ago at this point, that professional basketball players make more money off of brand deals than they do off of playing basketball. And I remember learning that. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I remember learning that and thinking, wait, why don't artists do that? So that then they can do art and also the brand deals. And no one thinks of someone as a less good basketball player because they also did a brand deal.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that the standard for artists sometimes, that it has to be your money has to 100% come from paintings or it doesn't count? That who made these rules? Who are these art police we're imagining? They don't exist. They just don't exist.
Right. No, you must be starving and broke to be a legit artist.
Exactly.
You're selling out if you get paid.
And that's just not true, as we know. If you want to really share art with the world, if you want to create as much as you can in your lifetime, you have to get paid. Right. Whether that's through a job or through thinking of it in an entrepreneurial mindset. Right. Those are your options. Either you're going to have a job and also do art, or you're going to think of this as a business. And those are your options. That's it. As far as I'm aware.
No, it's a really, really good point to bring up.
Yeah, so for me, the collab with Bomb Pop was so cool. I actually was in New York a few weeks before that collab came up. For those who don't know, Bomb Pop is a type of popsicle. Popsicle is actually a trademarked word, so I have to only call it Bomb Pop, but it's just like, it's like the red, white, and blue popsicles that you ate as a kid. That's what Bomb Pop is, for those who aren't aware. So I was in New York a few weeks before that doing a pop-up shop, and I was like, oh, I'm going to promote my pop-up shop by going to Washington Square Park in a white suit and asking strangers to draw on me and draw really bad art on me. I want to encourage this idea of shit art's better than no art. I want to encourage that in every single person I meet. So I went to Washington Square Park, and my friend helped me film videos of people drawing on me. My suit filled up fast. Like, everyone was coming and drawing on me, and it was such a good time. And those videos, they did so well on social media. They blew up to the hundreds of thousands. It was amazing. And the company that does the advertising for Bomb Pop, they saw that and they were like, wow, an influencer or content creator who also knows how to talk to people. How rare. There's so many people who are really good at being in their rooms and talking to the camera, but how many people can go into the street and actually talk to people in person that they don't know? It's a scary thing to do. It's not comfortable, but I love talking to people. That's just a part of who I am. I love talking to strangers. I've traveled a lot on my own also, so I think that's helped me with I used to be a lot more shy, and then when I traveled on my own, I got really comfortable talking to strangers. So basically, this agency that works with content creators reached out to me, and they were like, oh, would you come to New York City and do this brand collab with us? Where you will be handing out the Bomb Pops in New York. And I was like, yes, but only if I can involve my art in it. Or I didn't say it like that. I said, I would love to find a way to incorporate my art in it so that this feels like a more authentic collaboration to my audience as well as yours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I said to them, which is way more effective than being like, no, only if, like, I definitely did not say it that way. So I basically talked to them about all of my ideas. I had a Zoom meeting with their creative team, and then I went to New York like 2 weeks later. It all happened very fast. They paid me half of it ahead of time, half of it after. Like, we had a full written out contract. I'm begging you, all of you who are on this call, get contracts. Get contracts. Do not just like leave payment. Do not leave terms. Talk about everything ahead of time, even if that risks canceling the collaboration. That was my biggest mistake with the thrift store, honestly. And the reason that, I focus on the content aspect, there was no contract there. There were no set expectations there. And it was a very challenging collaboration. Mm-hmm. Working with Bomb Pop was easy because everything was written out ahead of time in a legally binding contract. I looked at it all ahead of time. It was an 8-page contract that said, okay, you have to make this many videos. These are the things you can say. These are the things you can't say. These are the dates by which you need to make it. This is how much you will get paid. Like, they were specific. I legally cannot work with any snack company until September 9th. I legally cannot promote any other snack company because of my contract. Like, that honestly to me feels so much better than what it was like with the thrift store. The thrift store was very challenging because there was no expectation ahead of time. It was also one of the bigger projects I had done up until that point. And I learned a lot from it. And I'm happy to talk about the mistakes I made with that, because I want you guys to learn from that it's like, if you don't set expectations ahead of time, and if someone says you can do whatever you want, be wary. That is a red flag. If someone says do anything, oh my gosh, run away. Like, or talk about it. You have to set expectations ahead of time. If it's something that you're doing for free, that's okay. As long as you set that expectation ahead of time so that no one's mad at the end. Mm-hmm. You have to set expectations up ahead of time. Talk about it from the beginning, and everyone will be happier. The Bomb Pop collaboration was incredible. The thrift store one was very challenging, I will say.
Yeah, and it's really valuable to learn from the mistakes too. So I'm really glad that you brought up contracts, because that is a really important thing that a lot of artists overlook and feel uncomfortable talking about. Do you have like your own contract templates? Did you ask them for a contract, or?
No, they had a very specific contract for working with content creators, but I also did, like, there were certain things in the contract that I was like, oh, this is a bit odd. Can we talk about this? And I didn't say this is a bit odd. I never insulted them, but I asked them questions. I was like, oh, what do you mean by I need this many pieces of content? Which platforms? This and that. It's like, there were certain points that I clarified with them. which
Mhm.
was really important. And now I'm leaving Bomb Pop with an amazing relationship. They already said, come back, let's do this again next summer. Like, and with the thrift store, honestly, I'm not going to work with them again. I can't.
Right.
It was way too challenging. And the communication was poor. With Bomb Pop, the communication was so good, so clear, so professional. I would work with them again in a heartbeat. They were fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing. Contracts are important.
Very important. And like, even if you think, oh, I'm just starting out, I don't need a contract. I'm begging you, please get a contract. I thought that for so long. I thought I'm not good enough yet for a contract. I'm not professional enough for a contract. Get the contract anyways. It is there to protect you. It is there to protect that relationship with whatever company, store, person you're working with. Unless you're like doing a collab with someone who is exactly at your level, even then, set up expectations ahead of time. It's always good to do that.
Yeah, I think even if you trust the person 100%, just so you both remember what you both agreed to and you don't have to, scour through messages if there is a misunderstanding, like
Yes.
having it all in one place, like you don't need to make it weird at all.
Yeah, it doesn't make it weird. People really appreciate it, honestly. I asked them, I was like, oh, will there be a contract? They're like, yep, it'll be sent to you by this date. It was sent to me by that date. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's great. So do you feel like your problems would have been avoided with a contract with the thrift store?
I'll put it this way. I think that collaboration would never have happened with a contract, and that maybe would have been a good thing.
Mm.
Like, I will be honest, like sometimes setting up expectations will show you the nature of the person you're working with. And then you'll think, hey, this might actually not be the person I should be working with.
Right.
I'll put it this way. When I, like, way before my fiance, when I would go on dates, I would ask questions ahead of time. I would ask like these questions on first dates when I was dating. I'd be like, I'd be very direct and ask very specific questions because I was like, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste yours. Life is precious. I don't have time for this. And honestly, I treat professional relationships the same way. I'm like, I'd rather ask the direct question from the beginning and have that relationship never happen than to have a relationship be really difficult throughout.
Mhm.
And that approach that I took when I was dating is the reason that I'm like with the best person now, because from the beginning, I was like, I was like, are you single? What are you looking for? Things like that. Like I asked very specific questions and I treat my professional relationships just like that. And that's why now I have really amazing professional relationships because I ask those deal breaking questions. I think if I had from the beginning maybe asked the thrift shop, oh, how many pieces of content? How will you use that content? This and that. I might have been like, wow, this might not work out. And that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay for things not to work out. Not every professional or personal relationship is going to work out. And sometimes that's for the best. And that's okay.
Absolutely. What I'm hearing, the common theme here is like being really clear on your boundaries and communicate them from the start.
100%. Boundaries are everything, especially as you grow on social media. Like it can be easy to think, I wish that this many people were messaging me every day and I had this many messages to respond to. You have to create those boundaries. You have to, for your own well-being. It's for you that those boundaries are there. And that's something I've worked really hard on. Like I don't get DM notifications on my phone. I have to open my app to get DM notifications, or else it would just be overwhelming to me in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Let's take the chat questions.
Absolutely.
What type of videos do you feel are received the best right now?
That is a great question. For me, it's a combination of both process videos, whatever that looks like. I can go more into what a process video means for me, and something with a message or advice or some sort of take. One of my videos that did really well recently on Instagram was a video in which I said like artists need to can I just play the audio for you guys? That'll actually make it easier. One moment, I'll just open my phone, and this video did really well for me. Here, I'll show it to you guys.
I've heard a lot of artists lately complain that they have to make content. And you know what? I'm shutting that down. We get to make content. 20, 30 years ago, artists would make art in their home and no one would see it unless it got into a gallery or a newspaper or a magazine. And now if you have a phone, if you're watching this, that means you can turn on the camera on your phone and you can record a video about your art and people will see it. Even if 5 people see it, that's more than they would have seen if you made this art 30 years ago.
That video did quite well on Instagram. It was one of my top performing videos in the last few weeks. And I think it did well because, first of all, the video was shot really well. Like if you go to my page later and look at this video, you'll see it was shot beautifully, very steady, cool close-ups, some far away shots. Aesthetically, even if there was no audio, it would have been a beautiful video. And then I made that audio. I said something. I said something that I thought people would benefit from hearing. I said something that I thought would make people's life better in a way. That's my belief. You guys might not even agree with what I said in that video, but that's my belief. And that's what I said. And a lot of people had reactions to it. Some people had negative reactions. Some people had positive reactions. It was mostly positive reactions. And I think that video really worked well because it would have worked well if it were just me talking to the camera and saying that. It would have worked well if it were just the beautiful art. Combined, it was really powerful.
Sweet spot. Yeah, I shared that video too because I'm like,
Thank you.
I'm saying this every day. It was perfect because we're promoting this course and I'm like, this is why we're doing this.
Yeah, this is a gift. It is a gift to be able to share with the world what you create. And I know it's not always easy. That's actually what I told someone in the comments, that they're like, oh, but it's not easy. I'm like, I didn't say it was easy, but it's a gift. It's a gift to be able to share what you create. It's a gift to be able to share good things with the world. And someone needs your art. Someone needs the things that you're creating. Someone needs them. And you can really help the world by sharing what you have to create.
Preach.
I loved that video so much. It's like really in line with my sentiment towards social media in general. What a blessing it is to get to show up to this. And I feel for the artists before the internet, and I think about what their life experience was. And, you know, you were talking earlier about how like parents and stuff, like they're born in our time. So their understanding of what it is to be an artist is not the same, right? They think about starving artists. Well, those people were actually starving, right? It was so hard for them to get resources or to sell their art or to reach people. But we live in a time where with the click of a mouse, we could reach, or, you know, a button on our phone, thousands, millions of people. So I'm really glad that you said it. And it came at a time where there were so many trends just talking about the hassle of having to be a content creator. And I would just too, it's like, hassle. This is the best blessing on earth. I make money every day by being an artist.
It's a gift, and it's not an easy gift. It's not something that, I will say, given everything I said, it took me years to get to this point. It doesn't have to take you years. It's a lot of the things that took a long time were figuring out how to do it. And luckily courses like this exist that help you expedite that process and make it faster. But it's okay. If it doesn't happen in a week, don't stop. If it doesn't happen in 2 weeks, still keep going. It took me a while to get here. If it takes you months or years, if this is what you love, if this is what you think you were born to do, born to give to the world, then you have to keep doing it. It doesn't matter how long it takes. You have to.
That's really good advice because it does take patience and persistence. And even if you have, 1 or 2 or 3 videos go viral in a row, like that's not the end of the journey. Those might carry.
It is not.
Mm-hmm.
That first viral video I made, that was in 2019. That was 3.5 years ago. And I still make videos almost every day because that's not it. It's not winning the lottery, being a content creator. It's not that you have one viral video and that's it. You're set for life. That's not how it works. You don't just get payouts from this one viral video for 99.9% of people. It's like you have to keep showing up.
Yeah. Let's take Gage's question. Are there any other platforms that you're using besides Insta and TikTok that are very beneficial?
That is a great question. I last year tried many social media platforms. I was on Pinterest, on Twitter, on YouTube. I tried everything. And I barely grew on any of them because I was so spread out. I was so spread thin. A lot of times I had this idea, if I go on more platforms, I'm giving myself more chances. but it's sort of like this idea of, people say the grass is greener on the other side. I say the grass is greener where you water it. If you are not watering your grass, whatever that is, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, like choose 2, maybe 3 platforms to invest in my experience. And for me, 3 is already too much. I realized that if I wasn't investing in just 2 platforms, I wasn't growing on any of the platforms. So I think Instagram and TikTok are great. The reason I got on TikTok, though, was because I was researching platforms back in 2019, seeing what are ones that are growing. And I actually Googled, I said, what are up and coming social media platforms? And in 2019, when I was first starting out, I tried 5 social media platforms, 4 of which you've never heard of, 1 of which was TikTok. And for the 5 that you're going to try, there's going to be one TikTok, but that's 2019 was also a very different time than we are in today. Today, we know like TikTok is the place to be. Grow on TikTok. Do it. I swear it's an amazing place, but there's constantly new things. So research for yourself, but also don't spread yourself thin.
Yeah, finding that balance.
It's a balance of trying new things out, but not pushing yourself to the point where you're spread thin.
Yeah.
Oh, I see there's another question.
Yeah, where do you find the most success? Live events, commissions, or wearable art?
Where do I find the most success? I'll say as of now, brand deals and pop-up shops are the things for me. And the things that I sell most of are probably, I have a laser cutter, so I make laser cut jewelry. I sell online. The thing I make the most sales in are actually prints of my art. I use a third-party platform called Printful, and that's how I make prints of my art. They do all the printing and shipping. It's print on demand, so there's no upfront cost. I promise I'm not being paid to say this. I've genuinely been using this platform for a few years and I'm a fan. And it's not something I necessarily talk about publicly because I'm not going to tell every single person how I do this, but you guys are here and I want to give you guys that value. So for me, it's a combination of brand deals, the pop-up shops, which do really well for me, and the online store, which is mostly prints and sometimes t-shirts.
Ooh. What is like your dream collaboration with either a brand or a creator? Yeah.
That's a good question. What is my dream collab? Oh my gosh, that is such a tough one. I want to do a collab with TikTok itself. I want to work with them. I want to do like a big mural at TikTok headquarters or something. And I want at some TikTok conference to be like, the theme is me or something. I don't know. Like I want something big. Like I am thinking big here. So, and I do have some connections at TikTok. I've been talking about certain things. So time will tell.
Nice.
But that is a good question. I like that. Not a lot of people ask that.
Yeah, holding that vision for you. Can't wait to see
that.
Thank you. What is your biggest advice for TikTok? Especially someone that is dipping into it now that might not already have a following.
That's a great question. Best advice for starting on TikTok right now. Best advice. I think it still stands what I said earlier is know why you're making content and give value in your content. And please do not beg for engagement. I'm begging you to not beg. Like so many people who are starting out are like, oh, I guess I need to make videos, and that's their video. And I'm sorry if you've done this, no offense, but it just like, that's not what's going to get the attention. You have to give value in what you're doing and you'll get the attention. And then you can do whatever you want. Then you can collab with like a popsicle company like I did. And it doesn't like, I don't know, it's a good time. But from the beginning, think about how are you bringing value? What are you on the platform to do? What is your value? What are you doing that's different? There are a lot of artists now on TikTok. There weren't when I started, but now if I were starting from the beginning, I would say, what are you doing differently? And how are you giving value with your art? Is your art motivational? Is it inspirational? Does it, inspire people? Like right now I've been getting more into my Jewish art. So I'll be like, oh, it helps other Jewish people. And that's cool. And that's a new thing I've been exploring. Is your art connected to fashion? Like it has to be, at this point, in my opinion, something beyond the usual. the usual will not get you noticed. Just like making another watercolor painting of a flower at your desk without your face, without anything, that's not going to cut it anymore, in my opinion. Like, that's just the harsh truth. And I know that might be a hard one to hear, especially if that's something you love. It's like, what are you doing different? What's something that's different? And that's what you have to think about. It's not about being better than everyone on the platform. That is a terrifying goal and not really doable. You can't be better than millions of people, but you can be different. You can be different. And that's what I try to do when I show up on TikTok. Even now, after 3.5 years, I'm like, what am I doing that's different? Not because even now, having a big audience, my videos can flop too. My videos don't always get crazy attention. And I see the videos that don't get a lot of attention are the ones where I'm like, it's okay. I have followers. They'll see it. And they don't always see it. So the videos of mine that succeed with where I'm at, and even if I were starting today, are the ones where you ask, what am I giving and what am I doing different? The focus can't be on yourself if you really want to thrive. What are you giving value with?
That's beautiful. Really good advice. I'm taking notes at the same time.
Oh,
I'm like, I know this, but I need to hear it again too.
Yeah, that's one that I need to hear as well. I'm like listening to myself right now and being like, yes, girl, preach. That's amazing. Like I'm vibing with my own advice. Sometimes I forget my own advice, honestly. Sometimes I forget it too, and I need to remind myself. So this is a good reminder to myself as well. What are you doing different and what are you giving? Because everyone here has something to give. Everyone here knows something that someone else doesn't. Everyone has something to give. And don't tell me you don't, because I know that you do, because you have a different life experience than everyone else you'll ever meet. What have you learned in your life experience that you can share? What can you give to the world? You're here for a reason. It's not chance that you exist, in my opinion. I really don't believe that. I think you're here for a reason. And for me, TikTok is just an extension of that philosophy. Like all of these ideas about content creation come from much larger philosophies of believing that I'm here for a reason, whatever that is. And I believe I'm here to do good. I believe I'm here to encourage others to be excited about life. I believe that I have a lot of good left to do and that I'm here to create beauty in the world. And TikTok is merely one way of showing that to the world. It is not the end all be all. It is merely one way that I can reach an audience and share those ideas with them.
Preach.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This was really awesome just to get to learn more about you and so many inspirational nuggets that you've dropped here today. It was really great.
The last
I'm
question.
so glad. And any of you who are here, please feel free to DM, reach out anytime. I'm always happy to talk. And I'm also like doing my own coaching stuff as well. So if people are interested in that, you're welcome to reach out. And Dome, Ania, thank you for creating this for people. It is such a gift to have other people who are creating share. So thank you. I know that everyone who is here probably appreciates that now they don't have to figure out all the things you've taken years to figure out. You have given them these amazing tools. And now the secret with tools is you're the one who's got to use them at the end of the day.
Right.
Totally. You were like, you're like, oh, I'm inspired by my own advice. I'm like, I needed this course myself. I'm just reiterating all these things and being able to dive back into my own practice and pinpointing those fundamentals has made a huge difference for me, not only as a teacher, but a student.
Absolutely. Like the best way to learn is to teach, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing process. It can always be polished and taken deeper, and like you can implement new things that were not accessible before. But before we get off, I really want to take that last question that Gage posted because I'm also really curious.
Absolutely.
What ways do you go about getting your brand projects? Are you reaching out to them or are you waiting to be reached out? Do you use like platforms that connect creators to brands? What's your way about?
Oh, that's a great question. In my experience thus far, I've created enough very specific niche content that brands reach out to me, and especially that agencies will reach out to me that like they work for the brands. Normally it's like I did a collab with Crayola. Crayola was not the one reaching out to me. It was an ad agency based in Tennessee that reached out to me that does it. So if you're looking to do that, you can also research what are ad agencies. You can research what are art supply companies that you use. Let's say if you're an artist, like what are things you already use that you would promote anyways. And now I actually for the first time did reach out to a brand because I love this brand. We've been mutuals on Instagram and TikTok, and I was like, hey, I should collab with them. So most of my big brand collabs that you have seen they have reached out to me because I've built the platform that I have at this point. However, I also will reach out to brands. And I think the secret to reaching out to brands is seeing how can you guys both benefit from it. It can't just be about what you're getting from it. It can't just be about what they're getting from it. You have to both really benefit from that relationship and from that collaboration. It's not networking, it's relationshiping. Like, because if you do it right, it won't be the first time, it won't be the last time. I'll put it that way. Like with Bomb Pop, I'm going to keep working with them for sure because I love them because it was such a good time. And with a lot of companies, I'm going to keep working with them because we built a really good relationship that went beyond the professional and really felt personal. See the human on the other side. The person at the ad agency, they're a person just like you. You can reach out to them. They want to work with cool creators. They're going to benefit from you making content with whatever their product is. So remember that you are giving them value. They're giving you value. You are both valuable in this relationship.
Beautiful. That's a really good note to end on. Like at the end of the day, social media is social, so it's humans on the other end. That's so inspiring. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so lit up. Like you're the best motivational speaker. Because I'm like, I already believe all these things, but now I'm like, yeah, social media.
Yeah, social media. Go make art. Go share why you're here with the world. The world needs you. Seriously, each and every one of you.
Amen. I second that.
Yes, snaps to that. Thank you again. I really, really appreciate your time and just look forward to the rest of your journey. You know, like having this insight into where you've been now gets me excited for where you're going.
I really appreciate that. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Ania. Thank you, Dome. And thank you everyone for taking the time to be here. It says a lot about who you are that you took the time to be here, to learn, to grow, and to create.
Art in Session is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide professional and educational opportunities to creatives. Thanks to support from our listeners, we are able to keep this mission going. If you are enjoying this podcast, please consider donating at www.artinsession.org.